And what's nice is on a fresh build, you build that architecture in first, and then you work around it with anything else. Obviously, you're not going to be looping wires over it like some people do. Not you, Dave. I know people we've seen who built some pretty horrendous.
It's not like dragging a stereo home from Best Buy with a couple of crimp connectors and them Firestore plugs and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Excellent. Dave, we're gonna keep you on through our break. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk more about the products that you've made and and some of your background. There's a lot to talk about, so if you'll hang with us, please, we'll be right back. We're going to this is cool. We're talking about some cool hot rod stuff. The name of our next song is called Change in Time, so stick around for a little Nazareth, Dave, and we'll be back on 90.3 WHPC.
You got it.
Wow, that's like crazy loud music. What are you listening to?
The best music on the radio. Come on, this is the Iron Age.
The what age?
The Iron Age, the show that brings you various types of heavy metal music from all over the spectrum.
Really? I've never heard of it. How do you know so much about it?
I'm the host.
Wait, if you're the host, how you drive in this car and on the radio at the same time?
Come on, don't ask so many questions. The Iron Age with me, Justin Sullivan, delivers the best variety of heavy metal music that you could ever ask for. Only on the Iron Age will you find music as ridiculously heavy as Meshuggah and Oceano, along with chill and relaxing tunes like Tool and Deftones.
Well, that sounds cool and all, but I think I'm just going to listen to something else.
Ooh, I think that's going to be a problem. I think you're going to have to find another ride then.
What?
This is Dennis Pitzenberger from Sticker Shock, and if you're not listening to Motormouth Radio, boy, you are lost in the smoke of the burnout. Make sure and tune in each and every week because these guys are exactly what you want to hear. Real car guys, real talk, every single weekend.
Oh, Joe is grunging over there. Thank you, Dennis Pitzenberger. Dave, we still got you on the line, or did we lose you in the mosh pit too?
He got scared and ran away.
I'm still here.
All right, excellent. All right. So we are back with Motormouth Radio. Dave Hayes from Hot Rod Innovations, and you have the best website, hotrodinnovations.cool.
Yeah,
someday
cool.
You're going to tell me how you did that, because that is cool.
Thank you.
So before we get into this other product that you've built for the car, I don't know if we covered this Thursday night. Sometimes I'm in a haze on that show. I know you're predominantly a metal guy and a fab guy. What's your background, just generally speaking? With what got you to the credential that you have now?
Definitely my dad. Grew up, doing the hot rod thing. My dad has done a bunch of cars throughout my life that were, to be honest with you, way ahead of their time. And so, this is just what I grew up with. In 83, my dad showed at the Grand National Show. He had done a two-door sedan. It was a 29 Model A. And it had, all the front end on it was independent front suspension. He built everything himself. It was all polished stainless. The car was torsion bar suspended front and rear, digital dash. Everything about that car was, way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So I grew up around, with my dad, he's a really innovative guy.
So, and was your dad's background in engineering or automotive stuff like that, or was he just another true innovator?
He was a welder.
Okay.
And just a car guy.
Cool.
And then, as I got older, we did a pair of cars together. He had a Pro Street Camaro, had a blown big block in it. Mm-hmm. And I had a Pro Street 66 El Camino, had a blown small block in it.
Nice.
Both the cars were built at the house. Mm-hmm. When I was 19 years old, I believe, those cars were featured together in Super Chevy Magazine. His was in Chevy High Performance by itself. Mine was in Truckin' Magazine by itself. This is just stuff I've done with my dad my whole life. Then we got involved with dwarf car racing.
Yeah.
So it's similar to like a Legends car, but it's sort of more of a run what you brung. The Legends cars are like a kind of a cookie cutter deal where they're all the same car.
Right.
And then, so I started, I built all my own stuff. And then we did that for 5 years, and I decided I wasn't throwing my money away fast enough, and I had to have a sprint car.
Right.
So we sold all that and started running a 360 sprint car.
Uh-huh.
And it sort of by accident, I sort of fell backwards into building and selling dwarf car chassis after that.
Wow.
So I manufactured my own line of chassis for a while, and I've just sort of, I don't know, this is just,
yeah.
I don't really know how all this started, but it's what I grew up with. And, you know, the exact field that we've been in, whether it's like the old street rods or like the pro street thing and then the racing, all that sort of zigzagged through, but it's always been something involved with motorsports. That's
kind of why I asked that question of a lot of guests, because some people, you know where they are and where they've come from. It's kind of clear, or you know through history. But other guys, you don't know. And I found when I ask someone, I get answers like you just said. You're like, wow, you just made me rethink my whole past, and wow, what a crooked path it's been. But that's fine, because that's our lives. Our lives don't always go. We're not always linearly. Yes, linearly actuated.
Straight line.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And it's as interesting for us as it may be for you to recount it too. So that's why I go there. So the other product you made is this throttle return spring kit, which is just so cool. Please tell us about that.
Oh yeah, okay, I was looking at pictures of that thing. Yeah, whoa.
So thank you. Again, in putting this Roadster together and trying to keep this car as innovative and as fresh as possible. It's kind of funny. It's one of those things, or it's one of those parts on a car that nobody ever gives a whole lot of thought to, right? I mean, just from the beginning of time, it's always been the same thing. And now the bracket that it attaches to has changed, and there's a whole bunch of different styles of brackets out there, to hook from, some fixed point on the car to the throttle arm.
Usually a thermostat housing, if you knew guys, like they usually use the hose clamp by the upper radiator hose. I've seen that like a million times.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, like I said, there's 1,000 variations of it, but it's all this from like the first Model T. The throttle return spring is some form of, we are yanking on a spring.
Right.
And if you don't like the way it feels, where either, you overstretch it and bend a new hook on one end, or, you go back to the hardware store and you're walking down the spring aisle again.
Or if you're like me, you have a drawer in your garage. It is filled with different springs, and you just kind of pick and choose different ones.
Right. Yeah, you stretch them, you make another bracket, so it's on the radiator support. Who cares, It's well, I'll get it just the way I want it. So what if it's in the fan?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we got, it's funny, we got to the spot where we were going to light the motor off, that's in this little Roadster. And so you're starting to button up all the little tiny details, and we got to that spot, and, I flipped through a couple of the catalogs sitting on the toilet tank in the bathroom, and just thought, you know what, I don't like any of this. And so we started talking about it, and I wanted something really small and compact, and we sort of ended up with this, and it's a little billet coilover shock, basically. There's no oil in it, but it looks like a regular billet coilover shock.
What that thing does is something I've always wanted, and something we always get when we go to the spring drawer, is adjustability and tunability.
Correct.
Right? You're able to move that collar to preload, and your spring works in compression, not in tension, which, as we discussed with Chassis John on Thursday night, is the better way to deal with the spring. So,
yes.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, not only is that spring's never going to wear out, like, stretching on a spring will, and I cannot imagine a scenario that it ever breaks in compression. But even if it did, the other cool part about this system is, even if that spring were to break, and like I said, I don't know how that would ever happen, it would just overlap into the next full coil. It would overlap onto itself, essentially, but it can't fall off because it's captured.
Nice fail-safe.
Being mounted around this adjustable shock piece.
Yeah.
And, it's just a really small, compact unit. It takes care of, so the bracket has, the adjustable coilover. It's got the tab on it. like a low car style throttle cable. It's got a bracket on it for we have two different brackets. We have a bracket for either a low car style kickdown cable or a GM like Turbo 350 700R4 kickdown cable. The kickdown cable, well, actually, both brackets, the throttle, the tab for the throttle cable or for the kickdown cable, they're both removable. So if you're running, the solid rod for the throttle that goes back to like the arm on the firewall, and it's a 4-speed car, so you don't need either one of those. They just unbolt.
Right.
So yeah, it can be used with one, both, or neither.
Actually,
then we offer the bracketry in either clear anodized or black, and the shocks, they're all aluminum, and we have those anodized in clear, black, blue, red, purple, I think.
Yeah, it's just like my choice, like Henry Ford. Any color as long as it's black. That's how I like it. But, in Chassis John had mentioned that, NHRA should be mandating this stuff. And I don't think we covered it, but we were talking about PRI. Have you thought about bringing these products through that show at all?
Yeah. I think next year will be our first year there.
Great.
It wouldn't work for me this year. And to be honest with you, it hadn't even been something like on my radar. This is our first year going to SEMA, which is a big deal for us. But I think at this point, next year it's going to be an absolute for us.
Yeah.
But these products have been, around at my house anyway, for like 2 years now. And because we actually went through the patent process with both of them. And so the first time any of this stuff was seen in public was March of this year.
Oh, wow.
And, obviously we wouldn't have gone through all the patent stuff and, manufacturing a bunch of parts and stuff if I didn't think, or if my wife and I didn't feel like we had something here. But to be honest with you, it seems like it's sort of picking up steam faster than I anticipated. So we hadn't planned on PRI and next year for sure.
I think that's how those things happen. When you live with it, when you have the Nosemobile thing, like from New Jerk, right?
Oh, yes.
And you live with it. They're all over your house. Your friends have them. Your family have them. You get numb to the importance. And then when it does pick up, when somebody wants to mass market it, let's say, which I hope that happens in your case, it's all of a sudden like bang, zoom, man. Now you're hiring staff, which is another happy problem, So
sure.
Yeah. So we wish you all the best with that.
Luckily for me, as far as the hiring staff, that part's already done.
You have kids?
Well, yes, I do.
Okay.
Sound Chinese.
There's a couple of guys that I grew up with that have worked with me on doing this car. We're basically. Not basically. We are absolutely a team.
Right.
And these guys are unbelievable fabricators, smart as a tack. I mean, I have the utmost respect for Mike and Jason, is their names. And as soon as this thing gets to a spot where that's going to happen, we've already discussed it. They are literally like, tapping their finger on the table. Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet?
Yeah.
So, and that's a pretty cool position for me to be in too, because I think that's the other problem in this industry is you can have somebody with a lot of passion or a great idea or a little bit of talent. But like you said, when you get to the spot where you need to hire some staff, man, it's not like you can just hire anybody.
Right.
It has to be somebody that kind of gets it, that understands what we're really doing here.
Sure. And you have to trust them. Yeah, there's a lot of components that have to work. So that's good. I'm glad you have that already built in because that is the key to one of the keys to success. So
yeah.
I think what I want to do is I want to follow up with you after SEMA. That's October 30th to November 2nd this year.
Correct.
And so I don't know. You know, I'll keep in touch with you because then we're going to have Thanksgiving after that, and then of course everybody's gearing up for all the holidays and whatnot. So we're working on your schedule, but I'd like to get you back on sometime after then and kind of recap what happened, what your experience